talk about a bunch of topics. There the recording goes. We're good now, yeah, Kara? Okay, great. So this is our agenda. So we'll start out by introducing ourselves, those of us who are here from GrownBy. And then we'll talk about the messages feature, which is brand new. We'll talk about custom shares, which I imagine a lot of people are interested in hearing about, and which we also will be talking about in more detail next week at the same time on another webinar. We just admit these additional 2 people. Awesome. We'll talk about labels, which we have some. This is kind of tied into custom shares, but also could be used separately from custom shares. We'll talk about new label features. We'll talk about the fact that we very soon are going to be available in Canada. And then we'll have some time for questions. So I'm Danny from GrownBy. I do customer support primarily, and also help with software testing, and those 2 go pretty well hand in hand. So I hopefully am as up to date on the features as I possibly can be. And then I also have a farm in central Vermont. I have sheep. It is extremely cold outside, which means the sheep are very happy, and I am avoiding the outdoors. And yeah, and I also sell on GrownBy.
And I'm Kara Fravor. I work on some sales and support for GrownBy. I am no longer a farmer, but I have a number of years of CSA growing experience. And I'm based in New York. And I have I love seeing your faces. There are a number of you that I'm like, oh, look, it's this person. So a couple of like housekeeping things. So there are 21 of us here, so that's awesome. Please remain on mute unless you have a question, but you are welcome to come off mute to ask. Please use the chat function to just introduce yourself, your name, your location, your pronouns, your farm name, anything you want to say about, I don't know, in the chat. And there's also live closed captionings available if that's helpful for you to follow along. It's the little square CC at the bottom of the page.
We also have one more GrownBy person here. Becca, will you introduce yourself, please?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Becca. I'm new to the GrownBy team. I'm running demo calls, helping people get set up with their new stores. I'm a farmer in upstate New York and also selling on GrownBy.
Nice. Shall we proceed, Kara? Anything else? Okay, great. All right, so just diving right in, there are now messages on GrownBy. This feature feels a little bit self-explanatory to me, so I probably won't say, oh, I'm sorry, Kara, you were going to talk about messages. You talk about messages.
I'll talk about messages. I'll say self-explanatory. Messages work the way that messages in other platforms work, and that you might have used messages on your phone or somewhere else, right? They keep an ongoing thread with a customer. This is a great way for you to easily communicate, to answer questions. It does send you a push notification or an email to alert you that you've gotten the message. So it used to be that messages were stored in your email, so you didn't have like but now you can kind of see all of them, and they look like that screen in the top right. So you can talk to many different customers. You can still only communicate one-on-one with a customer. So we don't yet have the option of one farm email, like sending a message to say 10 people who got strawberries this week or something like that. But you can individually reach out to everyone. And one thing to highlight here is there are lots of places in GrownBy where you might send a message, right? So maybe somebody like got something and it didn't seem quite right to them, or they hadn't ordered it, or you missed something. And so you send them a message to say, hey, I'm fixing that and whatever. Or like maybe preemptively you say, we're not gonna have strawberries this week. But also you often send URLs for links to an invoice for folks to pay. You may often do that. And so those are easy to pull from the invoices page and then paste right into a message and send it off to them. That's just another place you might be using it. Any questions about messages?
Awesome. Sorry, Kara, I didn't mean to just steal your thunder there. So custom shares, this is, I imagine, a reason that a lot of you are here to hear from us today. Just a little bit of background on custom shares for those who don't know. So I will say that GrownBy was kind of chugging along. We knew that Harvey was really cornering the market on custom shares, and we thought that they were doing a good job of it. And so though we got a lot of requests from farmers for different kinds of customization, it didn't feel like the most urgent thing for us to work on until Harvey decided that they were going to shut down a few months ago. And at that point, we decided that we needed to try to step into this this role of being able to have customization on GrownBy, and I'm happy to say that we've built something that works for farmers, and it's a work in progress also, but we have farms currently delivering customized shares on the platform, and it's going well. So this is how it works in GrownBy. We'll just kind of walk through first, like, the process of the customers customizing, right? So the customers, each distribution or each week, receive an email and or push notification about their customization window opening. Those customization windows are set by you, time and date, open and close. So that can be anything that you want it to be. And they either click on the link in their email or notification, or they just log into GrownBy. They could go either route. If they know it's the time, then they could just log straight in. And once they click on that link or log in, then GrownBy will generate a share for them. So this is a test share that you see in this screenshot. Those shares are based on a few things. They're based on your inventory, whatever you have set and put into the CSA group that is being customized. They're based on some upvoting and downvoting that you can do that's currently in the back end. Like, we manage that, but you can upvote and downvote given products, which will either push them into the share, or if you downvote them, then they will be available to be added to the share by the customer, but they won't be pushed into the share at all, unless they're the only, just going to admit another person, unless they're the only product that is available, then they'll be put into the shares. And then these shares are also built based on the preferences that the customers have set. And in the second screenshot on this slide, you can see that there's a text-based box that customers can click, I want to change my preferences, and they can add whatever text there that they want to add, that tells the system what they like, what they don't like. They can put something in like, I'm vegetarian, if it's a diversified share, and the share will leave out meat, that kind of thing. And so that's kind of like I don't know, a first or second layer even of the share building. And then on top of that, they can, next slide, they can go straight into the shop. So if they're like, I want to add some stuff, I want to remove some stuff, I want 2 heads of broccoli this week, whatever, they can add and remove things. And as they do that, their cart total or their share total will be getting matched against the share value that you've set as the farmer. So say that's $45, and their initial share brings them to $43. They could add a $2 product, they could add a $5 product, and then when they check out, they would have to pay that difference, that $3. If they check out with a share that is less than the share value that you set, so it's 45, they check out with 43, then they'll be given $2 of farm credit. That'll go on their account, and then that could either get used for future purchases, or if they have installment payments, it could be used for installment payments down the line. And you can see in this bottom left screenshot that GrownBy is applying a promo code here. So this happens automatically for the value of the share.
And I'm going to just interrupt to say that GrownBy gets the base share that GrownBy like proposes to the customer when they log in. Is going to be as close to the value of the share, but not over.
Mm-hmm.
And they can just be like, looks, there's a button that says, looks good to me. And they can click on that button and they go right to checkout.
So just a few more details about custom shares that might be interesting to you all. So you can have shares that are of any size or value. You can have multiple sizes of custom shares, and you can set those values, independently of one another, of course. And the price does not have to be the same as the value. So an example of why you might want to do that is you have some members who are picking up at the farm, and then you have some members to whom you're delivering. And for those delivery shares, you want to charge them an additional $5 per distribution, but you don't want them to get $5 more produce, because that would defeat the purpose of having a delivery fee there. So you just tell us when we're setting up a custom share with you, the price is $45, but I want everyone who has this product to get $40 worth of produce or product, and we set that in the back end, and that just works. So you can have multiple shares that are customized. This gets a little bit complicated because you would have to set them up potentially if you want some products to go to one group of customers and some products to go to another group of customers. It can get complicated as far as CSA groups, but if you have a situation where you need to do that, say you're running a meat CSA that's customizable over here, and you're running a vegetable CSA that's customizable over here, GrownBy can handle that. So we can do those kinds of things. And what else to say? That the preferences that the customers set are saved from week to week. So GrownBy is aware of those preferences when it's building the shares. And we'll go into lots more detail next week about this. So if you want to dive deeper into custom shares with us, then there's a webinar again at 1 p.m. Eastern on, I think it's the 29th, right? So you can sign up for that webinar too. Anything to add, Kara?
I'll put that webinar link in the chat.
Thanks.
Also, Jane asked, where do we access custom shares as farmers? What part of the website?
Yeah. So I'm assuming that you're asking Jane about like, how do you set up a custom share? So custom shares are set up just like any other share in GrownBy. So any farmer who's using GrownBy could set up a share, start selling it tomorrow, not plan to distribute it until April. And all you would need to do to make that share custom is to reach out to us, and we will go through a bit of an intake with you, get the information that we need around the value that you want the share to share, or share sizes to have, what dates you want the customization, dates and times you want the customization window to open and close. And is there any other information we gather? Those are the big things. Make sure that you understand how you need to kind of manage it every week as far as adding stock to those products and putting them in the CSA group, or making sure that they already are in the CSA group. And then we set up the customization in the back end. So down the road, we'll have more user interface built around customization. But right now, what we decided to do was kind of build the tooling around it, but keep that in the back end of GrownBy. And then as we move forward with this, we'll bring that more into the user interface, and farmers will be better able to kind of manage those things themselves. But this was kind of the quickest, most efficient way for us to get customization to you. So that's the path that we took. I hope that answered that question. Where's the AI preference setting from the customer's end? Yeah, so that exists. Let's see if the screenshot shows it. So on this screen, so customer clicks on their link and goes to GrownBy, and GrownBy generates their share. This change, can you all see my cursor? I believe you can, right?
Yeah, we can.
Great. This change preferences link right there, that's what pops up the screenshot that you see below. So you click change preferences, that pop-up pops up, and then you type into there.
And Luca asked, maybe they missed you saying, but does the share have to be entirely customizable? This is like a very customizable share in the style of Harvey. I mean, not entirely in the style of Harvey, but like in response to farmers needing something to replace Harvey. So it's not the right choice for if you have custom shares, but have one or two things that you want to leave as options. And I'm not exactly sure, Luca, how I would address that specific thing. Like if you're like, oh, it's going to be like basil or parsley, I don't know what the best way to do that is, but I think we could come up with one. But that isn't the same, wouldn't be the same as this very much more complicated customizable share option. And there's still tons of ways to be customized in GrownBy, right? Like we have folks doing spend down CSAs, and we have folks doing free choice on-site CSAs, and we have folks doing like customizable week CSAs. So there's all kinds of ways that people make their shares more flexible. This is just a very specific way that farmers were really needing.
And Robin, it's a real-time process. So when they click that Save Preferences button, it recalculates the share and then displays it to them on the screen.
But we don't recommend, Robin, that people use their preferences to like customize that week's share. That we want those preferences to be sort of a whole season preference. Like, I love colorful vegetables. I hate collard greens, which I don't actually. But we want, if you were like, oh, I already have a ton of onions, I don't want onions this week, we would suggest that customers just take the onions out of their cart instead, so that it doesn't mess up their future customizations.
Could I just add on to that then? Because that was a confusing point in Harvey, where we had members that thought that the best way to build their share was to change their preferences every week. So even telling them, it's kind of why I asked, like, it's right there when it says this is your weekly. I don't know if it's a language difference of like change seasonal preferences, change general preferences. That would just be I don't know. I know there's some other Harvey farmers on the call, but that was a confusing point for people. And we always had to say to them, like, it's best to set your preferences and forget it. So just be general in there, especially if the AI is going to eventually use, right? It wants to use that information like over time. So I don't know. I know for us, there was a lot of explaining to members at Harvey that those preferences should be set and kind of left to be in more of eating habits.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you want to change things weekly, do it a different way. So I just could see that could get where they're like, oh, I don't like this share. I'm going to change my preference and say, I don't know, I don't like golden beets or whatever based on that picture. Just a thought. I don't know.
Yeah, that's super great feedback. And we have thought about that a little bit. So if a customer sits on this screen and types one thing in and then clicks Save Preferences and it recalculates their share, and then they say, that's not really what I want, and they click Change Preferences again, I think that they can go through 2 cycles of that before GrownBy will pop up another little pop-up. I keep wanting to use the word modal, which is a word that we use, but is not a word that anyone else uses, but a pop-up. And that pop-up will say something, I can't remember exactly what the language is, but it's something along the lines of like, setting preferences is for the season, like, please go into the shop to kind of like adjust this share. So we have kind of started to move towards addressing that issue, Robin. I think that also changing some language in this pop-up is a good idea too.
And I made a note of those suggestions. And I think also in a longer term way, we'd love a customer to be able to see this somewhere else.
Yeah.
But we're not quite there yet.
Yeah. And Daniel, you were asking, do they need to re-enter those preferences each customization period? So they save from period to period. So if I had put in this, I dislike radishes and garlic previously, and I clicked on change preferences on week 4, it would show up in that box, and that share would have been already customized according to those preferences. Yeah. So it's the idea of it is that it's supposed to be kind of learning, quote unquote, though I don't know if that's really whatever. Learning is, yeah. But it's supposed to be for the long term, right? Yeah. So let's see. I think if there are no more questions right now about custom shares, Kara, were you going to say something?
Just that I'm supposed to be putting that link in the
Oh,
chat.
cool. Yeah. So labels, which is also an important part of custom shares. Yeah, Kara, do you want to talk about this?
Sure, I'll take this one. So we've been working a little bit on labels for a while, but have really made these a little bit more robust with the custom shares right there. That's a pretty important feature to have for folks using custom shares. So labels can be printed to various sizes. It can be either a roll or a sheet label. There's a location nickname at the top, this one that says GIF. That is 4 letters that you set at your location level to just make it very prominent. And I think about that as like grouping your boxes in a cooler or in your truck to be like, these are all the ones for the elementary school or whatever. And then products that are more than one appear in bold. So you can see that 2 there. We're envisioning these as mostly always printing in black and white. But so bold was what we went with. And there's an article here all about label printing. And I'll put that in the chat too. Do you have any questions about labels?
I'll also just say that coming from Harvey world, there are some label features that we haven't put in place. I'll say yet for now. Some of them we may and some of them we may not. Thanks, Jane. I'll answer that in a second. So for instance, you'll notice that right now these labels are sorted alphabetically by product name. Whereas with Harvey, there was the weighted product sorting. And I'm trying to think what else. Maybe Harvey farmers can chime in if there are things that you're like, wow, that was the greatest thing in Harvey, and I'm not seeing it here. Yeah, Daniel.
There was, I think I mentioned this already, but add-on shares. So if you had like a flour share or bread share add-on, it printed the add-on share on the label.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't figured out how to do that on GrownBy. Excuse me, on GrownBy yet.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a good one. Because you could include the subscription products on the label, but then you would end up with that taking up space on the label, like the share itself. Yeah, that's a great one. We'll think about that more, and we can talk about it more too, Daniel. Robin, what was your thing?
Oh, just on that subject, there was that option. We found that we needed the size. Sorry, what you had just mentioned, that you could put the share type on the label. Some farms might need, we always needed it because we had multiple sizes. So we needed to know what size container to grab to pack it. So you may need to include that information somewhere, whether that includes the add-on or not. But the other, because we did that little Thanksgiving share in November.
Yeah.
One thing that Harvey did was it would roll over into multiple labels, which I think GrownBy is also doing.
Yeah.
it doesn't tell you that you're on the second label. Oh, it does. I think
It has a
did.
1 of 1 and 1 of 2
Yeah,
kind of
it was
thing.
pretty small.
It is. Yep.
And then Harvey put more. I think I had made a note that it would be nicer if there was like 10 items instead of 7.
That changes in the works. I think we're gonna make it 10. And that change should happen pretty soon.
Okay. Yeah, I guess if some of that other data, like we definitely need our add-ons to be listed on that label. How else would you be packing? If they're not listed on a label, would they be spitting out as an additional label? Is that where do they show up now?
They would.
Go ahead, Danny.
Go ahead, Kara. No.
I was going to say, to answer Jane's question and Robin's question. So they're in the packing sheet section of distribution. So you go to distributions and then you go to packing sheet, and then there's a label button. And to also highlight, so Robin hinted at the fact that Robin's Farm wants more than 7 items per label. So you can control that number. Currently the max is 7. We'd love to see it be bigger. But also if say your delivery driver needs to have it be more visible, you could put 4 on a label, and then you just have more labels. And then when you print those labels, you sort out the shares, because you don't want the shares to have shares will be a separate label because it's a separate order. And so you could print an additional label that is just the flower shares, for instance, if the flower shares or the fruit shares needed to be included in that box, but it wouldn't be the way we built it on the same label. But I see what you're saying, Robin, and I think that's a great suggestion.
Yeah, it's pretty tricky if you have 300 or hundreds of labels.
Yeah.
Because you have to put their flowers or their bread or whatever it is, you have to put it in the same box. So to have to go in a lot of farms, you're moving those shares somewhere else after they're packed. You can't go back. I don't know. That could be tricky.
Yeah.
The other thing was on that packing report, if it created 2 labels for a share due to a certain number of items, it would like account for that in the delivery report. So a lot of farms, I assume a lot of farms are doing this, that when you're going to a site, you're like, okay, there should be 30 boxes going to site whatever, A. And then site B, there should be 70 boxes. Well, if a share ends up being 2 boxes due to it not fitting in one box, you now have 31 boxes at that site, right?
Right.
So when it would spill over to a second label, it would account for that in the packing, the delivery report, so that you knew how many actual boxes you should be expecting. Am I explaining that right?
Yeah, that makes sense. Would you ever run into the situation where you ended up with 2 labels, but you could actually fit all of that stuff in one box?
All the time. So the only time it was good, because now I'll explain this better. The only time it was 2 labels was when it was 2 separate boxes that week. So like if the member moved a box and they literally had 2 shares that week,
Okay.
they would get 2 labels that did not have a 1 of 2. They had an arrow is how Harvey did it. So if there was 2 labels and there was an arrow leading from the first one to the second one, it was like up at the top by their name. Then it was just Harvey saying, this might need two labels.
Yeah, gotcha.
Becky's on here too, and I'm probably not explaining it very well, but we noticed it in the Thanksgiving where people had 2 labels because we went over the 10 items or something, or the 7 items.
Yeah.
But it did not account for, what did it do, Becky? It counted as 2 boxes? I don't remember.
Yeah. This all makes sense.
Yeah, I don't remember. I think it counted it as 2 separate. Each label was counted as a share box.
Mm-hmm.
It just means you're going back, and I don't know if other Harvey farms had used that as it's quite an important piece on most CSA farms to make sure you're leaving the farm with the right number of boxes.
Yeah, totally.
But I don't know, maybe that's specific to us. Sorry if I'm dragging the thing down. Just things that came up that we noticed in the when we did that little Thanksgiving pack out.
Yeah, no, thank you. That does seem super relevant. Kara, did you want to say something else about that?
No, I was just going to say, like, as you are all using, certainly custom shares are pretty new for us. Labels are new for us. As you're using those features and you're seeing those things, like, just reporting them back to us as much as you can. Because, like, there might be things where we're like, yeah, we can't do that right now. But noted. And there might be things where we're like, oh yeah, we can do that right away.
Yeah.
So
I will say, having been in the world of farm software for a while, it's not always predictable to us, like how, Kara and Becca and I are not developers, so we don't always know like how hard or easy a change is. So just hearing those asks for changes as much as possible is great. Because then we can ask the people who actually know how hard a change is to make.
yeah, we can start really advocating for you when you're like, but we really do need this thing, and we can. But the more squeaky wheels you are, the more we can squeak to someone on your behalf.
Yeah. Kara, my turn, your turn? My turn. Great. So this change actually also came out of the Harvey transition, though obviously it's not the first time that we've heard from farms in Canada that they'd like to use GrownBy. But there were, a number of farms who are using Harvey in Canada. And so we are hard at work getting Canadian dollar and Canadian postal codes to work in GrownBy. It's actually going to be a separate site almost. So like a customer couldn't shop both from the US side and from the Canadian side from the same page. And along with that, we've looked at our map again, which is, I think that looking at our map is a perennial thing that we often look at the map and try to improve it and make it more usable for shoppers. And so the map is now, is once we release this, which hasn't quite been released yet, the map will have some improvements related to the ability for it to manage Canadian farms. So yeah, I think that's all I have to say about that.
And that's not totally ready. So we're expecting it out maybe the end of next week. Probably more realistically, even the week after.
Awesome. That's what we have for you today. And we're happy to answer questions and talk about things that you're facing with GrownBy or things that you're thinking about. So yeah, and we have additional support materials about custom shares forthcoming. It's something that we're working on a lot right now. So all of our articles are on our help desk, and we're adding things about custom shares now. There are a few, and there will be more that will both help you as farmers to understand what's going on with custom shares, and also we just released an article yesterday that is custom shares from a shopper or member perspective. So that's something that you can use to, share with your shoppers, so they kind of will start to understand how this is working if you're doing custom shares on GrownBy. So yeah, any questions or things to talk about that anyone wants to bring up? I'll make an additional plug for sending any questions to the support@grownby.app email address, just because that's the one that gets monitored weekends and evenings. So if you have questions, that's the best place to go with them. Yeah, please, Robin.
I know we're here to talk about customized shares, but just because I have you on the wholesale end of things, wasn't there like a new wholesale going to be rolled out and available to everybody? I'm just curious where the timeline is on that.
Kara, do you want to answer that?
I'm trying to find the right link. So No, you take it. I'm going to keep looking.
Yeah. So the wholesale feature set is mostly, like the first iteration of it is mostly complete. There's a little bit more work that we're doing on it right now, which will be done, I think, in the next 3 weeks or so. And we also, just a peek behind the curtain here, GrownBy works a lot on grant funding, and so the wholesale project is a grant-funded project, and part of what we're doing right now is kind of reconfiguring some of the grant partners, and we'll be hiring someone also to support that process. So there's much more coming, related to wholesale in the next, I don't know, 6 months or so as we really ramp it up. But the basic feature set we're expecting to be able to release, I believe, within the next 2 months.
Great.
Yeah.
And my other question would be, unless somebody else has one,
Go for it.
So then what if they don't make any changes? Like you had said, they can click and say it's good to go or whatever. What is that label going to look like?
Great question.
The items, because we didn't before. It was just custom box. Is it going to list the items?
Yeah, I neglected to say that. So if a member does not customize, they don't click on anything, they just ignore their email, they say, let the fates choose my share, then GrownBy will create that share for them, and so their label will look like any other label that was customized, and it will have the itemized items on it. And that's a change. As we've very quickly evolved this over the last couple of months, there was a moment when that label would just say farmer's choice, and then the farmer would have to go into the harvest list and modify it to add whatever products they were going to add for however many farmer's choice boxes they had. But now we have live in the platform that ability for GrownBy to create boxes for those folks. And again, those boxes are based on, their preferences and your inventory, just like any other box that is created as I described before.
And they're not all the same, which I think would be maybe a given for anybody coming from Harvey, but maybe not for other folks.
Yep.
Oh, it's just going to allocate. If somebody, it kind of is going to fill them up with whatever based on their preferences and what was left.
Exactly.
Yep. And that count will now be all in one. There'll be I forget what it's called. I'm going to use the wrong language, but like
it's the daily summary. Yeah.
Yeah. The daily summary is going to show you number of bags of carrots, number of blah, 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 blah. And there won't be a thing that says like, oh, and there's 20 farmers choice shares. It's just going to be integrated. That's great.
Correct. Yeah.
And one of the things, like for folks who offer vacation weeks, if a person has claimed a vacation week for that week, then they don't get the email and there's no discount code assigned to them because they don't have a share that week. So those people are just not on your list at all.
That reminded me, the discount, is that all automated now, the promo code thing?
Yeah, so the promo
Very
codes get created as part of when we set up the customization in the back end, essentially, and those customization emails go out. They get automatically generated, and they get automatically applied to the carts of the customers. And again, according to the size, you might only have one size, or you might have 9 sizes, and those shares are those promo codes are for the specific sizes that those customers have.
Very cool.
We talked a lot about the custom CSA stuff this week, which I thought would probably happen. If there are other things, because we're doing this webinar next week, it might be sort of repetitive, but we invite you all to attend that one too. But if there are questions that come up or things that you, certainly Robin and Daniel, who have been using the customized CSA. Like if there are questions or points that you think we should reflect in that webinar, please shoot them off to us at support@grownby.app. If there are things that you're like, oh, I should have asked this question, or this point has been weighing on my mind.
I just want to say I'm really impressed with now being a part of this for a little bit. You all move at an astonishing speed, in my opinion, for making the changes that you say you're going to make, and you're making them, and it's really exciting. And I feel like I made a fantastic decision to switch to you guys. So, yeah, it's really exciting to see it all happening.
Thanks, Robin. Yeah, and we'll pass that on to the rest of the team. Go ahead, Andy.
Hey there. So is there any update on point of sale capability for GrownBy? Is that something that's been talked about?
Yeah. So there's not a very, I will say I don't have a very concrete update for you. We are working on it actively, but that doesn't mean that it's going to be right around the bend. So, or I mean, I guess that depends on your perspective of time. I think that my sense is that point of sale will be, like the end of 2025 season. We'll be getting towards an initial release on it. That's about all I know right now, I think.
I will say that we've hired, I think, 2 staff people that are working on that, like directly. That's like their job is to work on point of sale. So if that makes you feel excited and bolstered, that is a thing I could say.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. I'm just looking, as a farmer owner, I'm looking for more ways to get my my cash flow towards GrownBy. So.
That makes us feel nice.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I honestly, I think the point of sale will be a huge thing for GrownBy, and that also means that we really need to get it right. I think that there will be a lot of farmers who are really excited to use point of sale on GrownBy, and we just want to make sure that we release something that is out of the gate really good. It doesn't have to be perfect, and it doesn't have to have all the features that we would ideally want to see, but we're anticipating that it could be a very important growth step for GrownBy, and so we're stepping towards it with intention because of that. Anyone else have anything they want to talk about? Go ahead, Sharon.
When they do the square registers, they are looking to incorporate the SNAP and the different things like that too, correct?
Yeah, that's a big piece of it for us. And I wish that I had more details about what that will actually look like in terms of like readers and et cetera, the hardware side of it, but I don't know that yet. I don't think that, we're in the research phase around that. So, but yes, in general, that is something that we hold as really important, as an important component of all of it, is the integration of not only like, just Snap EBT, but also hopefully eventually
WIC, all those.
Yeah, WIC, and that's also grant proposal work that we are actively engaged in, is working with MarketLink, and who is the nonprofit that we worked with for the current Snap Online software, and looking at what the funding sources are hopefully going to be to make that possible.
I do know what a big thing that is, because I've talked to a lot of people. So God bless you, and I hope it happens.
Yeah, thanks.
I wanted to ask with regards to that, since we've been doing Snap, that like we were like how to kind of get around doing day of sales, since we wanted to like close people ordering a few days in advance so that we can like adequately do that. But like but also be able to buy on the day of if there's extra boxes. Does that make sense? Like we don't want to have ordering all the way up until the day of, but also wanting to have like either 3 days before or whatever boxes we happen to have extra. We were just having people like just like pick a day since you have to pay immediately anyway, and just like pick a random day in the future, and we just note like don't send a box on July whatever. Is there like another workaround that you can think of until that's available?
Yeah, I think, and I would have to like probably talk with you more in detail and look at your setup a little bit more closely, but I think that could be managed by having a couple of different products on different schedules, and using the product that is on a kind of a daily schedule without a order cutoff date of 2 or 3 days to allow ordering for those kind of like at the time boxes. And that could all be handled with, you know, whatever payment method. So that could be Snap, or that could be a credit card, or that could be offline.
Gotcha.
Does that kind of address that, Luca?
Yeah. I hadn't thought about using the different schedules to do that, but yeah.
You could make a daily, I think what Danny's suggesting is you can make a daily schedule and then associate it with that kind of product, and you can keep that product hidden also, so that like a customer might not like order it or buy it for that day, but that you can either make it unhidden in that moment, or as a farmer, you can create the order really easily in your order creator and send the invoice to the customer, and they can pay either with EBT or some other way.
Yeah.
It could make a quick loom for you, I think, about how to do that if that would be helpful.
Yeah, or have a call, whatever works for you.
Cool. Yeah, we were just kind of throwing stuff together at the end of the year and like, whatever, it's November. Cool.
Yeah. Thanks for that question. If there are not any more questions, then we'll go ahead and wrap up for the day. And you know, hope to see you all, some of you, next week for the other webinar, and definitely be in touch with any questions or feedback you have anytime. Any other last call? Any other questions, comments? All right. Well, thanks so much. Thanks for being a part of this, and thanks for joining us today, and hope that you all are enjoying your Januaries. Maybe that means some quieter time. All right. Take care.
Thank you.